Okay, good evening everyone, and we are back for another week of the Torah's Chaim, the living Parsha, trying to relate the Parsha and the messages to our lives that we can actually live, not just know the Torah, not just try to intellectualize the Torah, but to actually live with what it says in the Torah. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh Adar, and we know the Chazal tell us, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. From the time that Adar enters in, Marbin, we have to increase our simcha, our joy. And obviously, unless you understand what it is that's going to make you happy, then you can't really increase the simcha, you can't really increase the happiness and the joy. So when it says, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, it means that we have to increase in our day-to-day lives those things that bring us the ultimate simcha, the ultimate joy. I was recently in Eretz Yisrael, and I had the schus to meet a tzaddik nister, someone that's somewhat hidden from the world. Most people never heard of him before. His name is Rabbi Abish, I believe the last name is pronounced Tzvertel. And Rabbi Abish is a man in his later 70s. He's been sitting in a little corner in Mea Sharim all of his life. Nobody ever saw him. Not many people know about him. He wakes up every single morning at midnight. And at midnight he goes to Kever Shimon HaTzadik, the grave of Shimon HaTzadik. And he says what's called Tikkun Chatzos. Tikkun Chatzos is the nightly prayer that many tzaddikim over the generations have said to bring about the geula, bring about the redemption, where they mourn over the loss of the Beis Hamikdash and the loss of Shechina. After he finishes that in the middle of the night, he then travels to the Kaisar Maravi, to the Wailing Wall, where he davens nates every day, which he has done, I believe he told me, or his Gabbai told me, for at least I think the last 50 years of his life. He davens the early morning prayers every single day by the Kaisel. I'm not sure that he ever missed, because he never left Eretz Yisrael. Only on Rosh Chodesh, they said that he doesn't go to the Kaisel, he goes to the Ma'aseh Machpelah in Hebron and he davens there on Rosh Chodesh. So today, I guess, Rosh Chodesh Adar, maybe as we're speaking right now, he's already davening nates in Hebron by the Ma'aseh Machpelah, the special grave. After that, he learns the entire day. But he doesn't learn regular, art scroll, Gemara, and Chumash the way that we do. He goes into the deepest parts of the Torah, very much into Kabbalah, into the mysticism. He's written, I believe his Gabbai told me, over 70 Svarim, and these are not little like pamphlets like How to Be Happy. These are like massive works over here that are written on the secrets of the world. He has a 30-volume set, which is the Shulchan Aruch according to the Zohar. So he goes through all of the halacha, and he shows how the halacha and Kabbalah, how they intertwine with each other. He goes then to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and he wakes up again at midnight, and this is the life of Rabbi Abish. We were zeicha, my son and I were zeicha to go and to see him when we were in Eretz Yisrael. We never heard of him before, but we were told he's a big tzaddik. He welcomed us in with a shining countenance, and we sat with him for about 20 minutes, maybe a bit more, and I believe had his Gabbai not told us that it's time for us to leave, he would have just continued talking to us, sharing with us his insight. So one of the drashas that he gave us while we were there was Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, because it was Adar Aleph. It was a month ago, the first month of Adar that we were there, Rosh Chodesh. So he told us what is the pshat, what does it mean. Now I could not understand all of the Kabbalistic ideas that he was speaking about, but one thing was clear. Marbin means increase. And he says if you want to increase the simcha in your life, you have to increase those things that are going to bring you to more simcha, that are going to make you happier. And he said, simply put, that is the Torah and the mitzvahs, which means that the month of Adar is a month for a person to increase in their learning, to increase in their mitzvahs. One of the beauties of Purim itself is a day that is filled, a Yom that is filled with mitzvahs, starting at night with the reading of the Megillah, going into the next day, the reading of the Megillah a second time, and then all of the mitzvahs, Shalach Manais, Matanos Evyanim, and of course the great Seudah, the Purim meal itself. So many mitzvahs that Hashem has given us to get involved, our whole body to be involved with. Because the more that you do, when you're doing the right things, as we're going to see, the greater is going to be your level of simcha, your happiness, and your joy. Now, we spoke about this possibly sometime before, but the Arizal, once we're on the topic of Kabbalah, so the Arizal, who was the greatest Kabbalist from the days of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, from the time of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who brought the Zohar into the world until the Arizal, and afterwards there has never been anyone like him. He died as a very young man. I believe he was 39 years old when he passed away. And by the time that he was 39, he had already revealed all the secrets of the Torah to the world. As a matter of fact, in Eretz Yisrael, there's a lot of machlekes, there's a lot of arguments over the grave of tzaddikim, of the older generations from the Tanoim, Amoraim, which grave is an authentic grave or not an authentic grave. When the Arizal came into the land of Israel, he made it his business to go all from one corner of the land to the other. And whenever he felt with his Ruach HaKodesh, his divine inspiration, that this was one of the graves of the Tanoim or Amoraim, he would get off of his wagon, he would go and prostrate himself on the grave, he would daven there and would say, this is where Rabbi Akiva is buried, this is where Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair is buried, and he would go so on and so forth. That's how it worked. Now, Arizal was a man that people were afraid of because he could look at the lines on your forehead when he was staring at you, and he would know what sins you had committed before you met with him that day. So anyone that had sinned would hang their head like this. They didn't want to be seen by him because he would pierce through them. But the Arizal reached a very lofty level. And they asked the Arizal once, how did you merit to achieve such high heights in your avodas Hashem, in your service of God, in your mysticism, in the wonders that you have revealed to the world? And he said, it's very simple. All of the mitzvahs that I did them with simcha, I did them with joy. When a person rejoices in the mitzvahs that he performs and that he does, that brings a person to a high level in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it brings them higher and higher and higher in the expression of their neshama and what they're able to accomplish. A simcha is something that comes when you are doing the mitzvahs, as Rabbi Abish told us. The more that you do, the more that you increase, the more that you're involved in them, the happier you're going to be. And the Arizal said, if you'll do them b'simcha, if you'll do them in joy, you'll reach even a higher level. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Pekudei, the last Parsha in Sefer Shmos, the Pasuk says the following. They finished the Asiyas HaMishkan, building the Mishkan. It's standing, everything is good to go. And Moshe Rabbeinu sees, as it says in the verse, V'yar Moshe es kol ha-malacha. Moshe Rabbeinu saw all of the work that the people did. V'nei asu oisa kasher tziva Hashem. And just as Hashem had commanded them to do, Kain asu, they did it. They didn't deviate even right or left, even a little bit. They did exactly according to plan. Vayivarech oisa Moshe, and Moshe blessed the people. He looks and he sees the beautiful Meleches HaMishkan, the building of the Mishkan, all of the kelim, all the vessels, all the bigdei kahuna, the clothing of the kohanim, and he sees that they did everything exactly the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them. Now, Rabbi Yeruchim says on these words over here, what does it mean that they did kasher tziva exactly the way that Hashem told them? He says, we understand that in every single mitzvah that a person does, there's many, many, many layers to that mitzvah. You put on tefillin in the morning. So it's not just wrapping the boxes around your arm and the bands around your arm and on your head. There's so many layers, so many mystical layers, so many deeper layers. You might not understand everything that you're doing. When you wrap yourself in a talus in the morning, when you say a bracha that's going into the heavens, you might not understand what it is that you're doing. But suffice to say, every mitzvah that a person is engaged in and involved in, it is penetrating through its deepness, deep layers in the spiritual universe. Most of us are not privy to realize or to understand that when we do a simple mitzvah down here in this world, it's having reverberating effects across the universe. However, says Rabbi Yerucham, that's what it means over here. That Vayal Moshe's koil hamalacha, he saw all of the work. Asu oisu kasher tziva Hashem kein asu, the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded them, meaning with all of the details, all the minutiae, with all of the kavanas, all of the deeper intentions that are lying behind every single mitzvah. Kein asu, they did exactly that. They all understood what they were doing. And of course, the more that you understand, the loftier, the greater, the bigger the impact of the mitzvah is going to be. And therefore says Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayevarech Isa Moshe, Moshe's have to give these people a bracha. They deserve a bracha. They did such a good job. They followed HaKadosh Baruch Hu so carefully. They made a mishkan which brings the Shechina down into this world. They made all the clothing of the Kohanim. And remember, as we've spoken about previously, this was not a nation that were expert sculptors or sculptors. They were not expert craftsmen. All they knew was one thing. They knew how to build bricks. They knew how to make pyramids. They knew how to make the walls in Mitzrayim. That's what they knew. They didn't know the fine details of making kruvim, of making the angelic golden pieces, how to make a menorah, how to make the wood in the right. They didn't know all these things. But they davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they trusted in Hashem that they're going to be able to do it. And with the chachma, with the wisdom that was in their heart, they reached those levels. Says Moshe, you deserve a bracha. What is the bracha that Moshe Rabbeinu gives to Klal Yisrael? Rashi tells us, Amar lehem, he said to them, Yiratzain, may it be Hashem's will, Shetishre Shechina b'maise yedechem, that the Shechina should rest upon the deeds of your hands, your handiwork. V'nayam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu, and now he quotes a verse from Tehillim, and this verse, I'll read the verse inside this Tehillim Tzadi, and it's Tehillim Tzadi, the last pasuk, V'hinayam Hashem Elokeinu, may your bliss Hashem come aleinu upon us, u'maaseh yedeinu kainu aleinu, and may you establish for the work of our hands upon us, Aleinu umasi yedenu kananehu, and the work of our hands, please Hashem, establish for us. And says Rashi, this is the bracha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave over to Klal Yisrael. May it be Hashem's will that the Shechina will rest in your hands, as it says in this particular Tehillim, which Rashi points out. It's one of the 11 Tehillims that Moshe Rabbeinu himself wrote, which is in Sefer Tehillim. And that is, may it be naya, may it be blissful, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And may you come to, your bliss come to us. And may you establish upon the work of our hands your bliss, and the work of our hands establish for us that your nayam, that your pleasantness is going to be there. Says the Malbim on this pasuk, Ha-ni'imus, what is ni'imus? What is bliss? Such a trite word in the English language. What does it mean? Nayam doesn't really mean bliss. What is ni'imus? What does it mean? Hutanug, it's the pleasure, sheyasik ha'payel mimasehu, that the person who's doing the actions reaches, when his actions reach the desired goal. When your actions that you are doing reach the goal that you are aiming for. And over here, it would be simply put, if you look at it in the context of the Parsha, their mission was to build a Mishkan. Their mission was to build a dwelling place for the Shechina in this world. Their mission was to harness all of their energies, all of their skills, many of which they didn't even know that they had, and make it something that is going to be able to build an edifice in this world that will house HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shechina. So if the actions of your hands will accomplish what it set out to do, that, says the Malbim, is the Tanuk, is the pleasure that a person is going to be able to derive the bliss of the Shechina here in this world. V'al yidei shanu nasig es hashleimus. And when a person reaches shleimus, spiritual completion, v'zeh yimotze Hashem noyam b'chal habriya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu then begins to find pleasure with all of His creation. Asher bo lichvaydo. Why did Hashem create the world? He doesn't need this world. This world is a headache to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He doesn't need it. What is it for? Says the Malbim, He made the world lichvaydo, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Kol ma sheberosi, everything I created, lichvaydi, is for my honor and my glory. Not selfishly, but it shows the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. When Klal Yisrael is doing what Klal Yisrael is supposed to do, when the Jewish people are reaching the goals of our personal and communal and global Avodas Hashem, says the Malbim, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu Himself is pleased, because the creation that He put into this world is beginning to reach its tachlis, its purpose, which is bring glory to the one above. When the creations down here will reach His glory and His honor, and they will serve Him, He will then look upon us, and He'll say, He'll look at us and say, you are the purpose of the entire creation. It's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires in His world. And in us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will find the tachlis maisav, the goal, reaching the goal and the purpose of His actions of why He made the world. Says the Malbim, when you will become a person who ends up using your actions and your deeds and your energies and your skills and your talents to do what is right in this world, you will experience Nayam, you will experience the bliss that is coming from the Rebbeinu Shalom. But it's so much deeper than that, says the Malbim. By you living up to your task and your job and your role, so then it makes HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a tanug, has a pleasure and an enjoyment from you in this world, because you are bringing the world to its ultimate fruition. How could there be a greater simcha, a greater joy for a person than that? To know that when you are using your energies, when you are putting forth what you have inside of yourself, when you are doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rebbeinu Shalom, wants us to do, when you are doing that and living like that, so then, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have made me rejoice. Over your actions, I'm seeing that the whole purpose of my creation is coming to fruition, and that brings me a simcha as well. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was blessing Klal Yisrael with. He was blessing us, Yiratzain, Shetishre Shechina, B'maisi Yadechem. The Shechina should rest in the work of your hands, meaning when you will do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to do, you bring the Shechina down to this world. When you will behave in the way that Hashem wants us to behave, you bring the Shechina down to this world. Why? Because Hashem hangs out, so to speak, in the places where He feels that people are fulfilling His will. He doesn't go to the places where the people are going against him. Just like you yourself. You go to the groups of people that you know make you feel welcomed. When you walk into a room, you automatically start scanning the faces. Is there someone there that I know? Because I know if I know them, so I'm going to feel comfortable standing around and hanging out with them. I don't usually walk up to a strange group of people that are looking at me like this. I would never do such a thing. You might, but most people would not. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He says, where am I going to rest my Shechina? Am I going to rest it in Russia right now? I don't think He's going to rest the Shechina in Russia. Is He going to rest it in somewhere in Zimbabwe where they're doing wild things in the forest over there in their tribal incantations? I don't think so. But when He sees Klal Yisrael, who's doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do, well, we're harnessing our energies and our koiches to do the will of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And we, in fact, are using our Ma'aseh Yadeinu, our handiwork, to fulfill the mitzvahs of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you are the people that I am happy to be around. You are the kind of person that I want to rest my Shechina with. And Moshe Rabbeinu was blessing Klal Yisrael that even though the building of the Mishkan is over, and you're going to go now wandering in the wilderness, eventually you're going to get to Eretz Yisrael, but there's so many things that you could do throughout the history of Klal Yisrael. May it be HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will that the Shechina is always resting there together with you. Many years ago when I just got married, my wife and I came back to Baltimore shortly after Sheva Brachas. A very good friend of mine brought me to meet a Talmud, a disciple, a student of the Chavetz Chaim. His name was Rabbi Vitzik. He had a small shul in Baltimore, and he was a man who was an elderly man at the time. He had learned by the Chavetz Chaim. And so my friend came with me and he said, you have to get a bracha from him. There's a man who learned by the Chavetz Chaim. So we go to Rabbi Vitzik, and my friend says, Rabbi, my friend just got married. He just came back from Sheva. Give him a bracha. And he gave me the following bracha. And the blessing was, may the Shechina always be comfortable in your house. That means, in that bracha is everything. May you always live a life, and may you always build a house, and may you always raise a family in a way where the Shechina looks around the world and he sees what's going on in Russia, he sees what's going on in Afghanistan, he sees what's going on in the streets of Hollywood, California. He says, I can't go there with my Shechina. Universal Studios, I can't go there, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's ichi over there. What am I going to do over there? And then he's going from house to house, and he looks inside your window, and he sees your life of Torah, and he sees your life of mitzvahs, and he sees your midos, taivos, the good, beautiful character traits, how you treat one another, how kindly you speak to your spouse, how gentle, how understanding, how sensitive you are. He sees the kedusha that you're trying to infuse inside your family. He sees it all. And he says, that's where I want to hang my hat. That's exactly where I want to go. The bracha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Klal Yisrael was, Shetishre Shechina b'maaseh yadeichem. Whatever you are involved with, whatever your hands are busy doing, which would mean you're doing things that would warrant that the Shechina should come into your life, the Shechina should be there. What do we do? The Arizal said it. Do mitzvahs. Reb Abish told me in Eretz Yisrael, Marbin b'simcha, you have to increase the things in your life that are going to add to the simcha, to the happiness that you have. What is that? When you're doing what your tachlis, what your purpose in this world is for, so then you are going to achieve a level of marbin b'simcha. You'll increase the happiness in your life. There's a pasuk, another pasuk in Tehillim later on, that says the following. It's in Tehillim 105, and it says like this: Yismach leiv, those who rejoice in their heart, are mevakshe Hashem, are the people that are seeking and searching Hashem. If you want simcha, if you want happiness in your heart, says Dovid HaMelech, the way to achieve that is mevakshe Hashem. You must be from the people in this world that are seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We live in a world where people are seeking a lot of things. They're looking for a lot of places to try to find fulfillment and happiness and the like. But Dovid HaMelech says, you know the way in which you're going to achieve that? It's very simple. Mevakshe Hashem. Look for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. Says Rav Gamliel Rabinovich in his beautiful commentary on Tehillim the following: when a person reaches this level, Hashem, he is counted amongst those that are seeking out the Ribono Shel Olam in their life. It's fitting already that this person should rejoice and be happy. What should his happiness be? Al etzem hadavar, on the main idea, shezacha liyois b'chlal mevakshe Hashem. If you are counted amongst those people that the pasuk over here is calling mevakshe Hashem, you look, you're desiring, you're seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life. V'kol chukasa yiketza lizkar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and your whole desire, what you aim for in life, is to try to get closer to Hashem. And you're not pulled that much after the desires and the pleasures of this world, because you realize that the more that you are involved in the worldly pleasures, you are taken away from the real pleasure, which is to be close to Hashem. Therefore, Kevin Shekain, Ein lecha simcha gedoyle mizu, there's no greater joy than this. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu can look at you and he can say, you are the mevakshe Hashem. Again, just like there's not many people in this world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm always comfortable in that house. I'm always comfortable in their car. A person's in their car. We do a lot of things in our car. Our car becomes our office. It becomes our dining room. It becomes our Lashon Hara center. It becomes our musical listening room over there. It becomes a lot of things inside of our car. As a person is driving down the 101, a long day, brain is fried from the long day already. Is the car a place that the Shechina says, I feel so comfortable in this car. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. Don't worry, without the seatbelt, you're going to be okay. Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy to come over there? Just as we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't find many households, He doesn't find many people, He doesn't find many cars, He doesn't find many communities where He can say, I feel comfortable, they get me in that place. So we understand that if you are called the Mevakshe Hashem, you are someone that is described by the Ribono Shel Olam as you are seeking and you are searching for me. If you are looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are eventually going to find Him. And the bikush, the searching, the wanting, the desire to get close to Him, says the pasuk, that's Yismach Leiv, that's already something to rejoice about. The Megillah, as we know, is the most hidden story of the Jewish people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name does not appear inside the Megillah. It's absent from the Megillah. But Megillah is the language of Megala, to reveal, which means through the story of the Megillah we are here to reveal the Ribono Shel Olam. Someone that is mevakshe Hashem, looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, searching for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, seeking out the Ribbono Shel Olam, eventually you are going to find Him. You think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to remain hidden from us? He knows how painful it is for a Jew to remain hidden from Hashem. He knows how difficult it is to go through your daily process and not see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said, but you have to earn it. You want to find me? If you will seek me out, and you will look for me, and you will try to make ma'aseh yadecha, your actions, your handiwork, your deeds, those kind of deeds that you know are going to be satisfying and gratifying to me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you will find me. Tishra, Shechina, b'ma'aseh yadechem, I will rest my Shechina there inside of your work, inside of your efforts. And then your hands will be established, that not only will you achieve the ta'anugim, the pleasures of getting close to the Shechina, but the reason, like the Malbim is saying, that you're getting so much more is because you have made me rejoice, says Hashem. When I look down on the world and I see people doing what I want them to do, that satisfies me. Moshe Rabbeinu says it says in the pasuk over here, Moshe saw all the malacha, all the acts that they did. V'nei asu oisa kasher tziva Hashem, just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded them to do, kein asu, they did. You can't go wrong when you do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks us to do. You don't lose out. It might be hard work. It might take extra time. It might be a great endeavor that a person is going to have to put themselves into. All of that is true. Nevertheless, when you're doing the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you're doing His will, so you are then going to be someone that is b'simcha. There are several stories that are my favorite Purim stories of all time. If you heard them from me over the years, I apologize, but I have to share because it always fits in with these ideas. There was a young man, his name, let's call him Moshe. And Moshe was a boy from a wonderful family in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. There were generations and generations of Yireh Shamayim, people who feared the Ribbono Shel Olam, who served HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who followed in his ways. And Moshe somewhere got lost along the way, and it was hard for him, his ascension and his immersion in Yiddishkeit. And little by little by little by little, he began to drift away from the path of mitzvahs. So much so that at a certain point, when he wasn't keeping Shabbos and he wasn't eating kosher and he wasn't davening and putting on tefillin, and he certainly wasn't wearing tzitzis or a yarmulke, he realized I can't stay in this house anymore. This house is way too ultra-Orthodox religious for me. I know I'm bothering my parents and my siblings, and it's bothering me as well. I just can't stay here anymore. So he told his parents one day, I'm moving out, and I'm going someplace else. Not good for me, it's not good for you, I'm moving out. He went and he got a house, a little tiny apartment, somewhere in Yerushalayim, in one of the neighborhoods over there, and he was living peacefully, doing his thing. As the month of Adar was approaching, and Purim was around the corner, this young man decided, you know what? I think I'm going to play the ultimate Purim spiel this year. I'm going to dress myself up like I'm some big tzaddik. I'm going to get a costume that looks authentic and real. Nobody will know who I am. And I'm eventually going to go to my parents' house, and I'm going to play a whole trick on them that I'm a big tzaddik, and I'm doing outreach with kids that are off the derech, and all different things. And I'm going to get my parents to really feel for my cause. And then when I get them wrapped around my finger, then I'm going to pull off the mask. I'll say, wow, here I am. It's really your son who's off the derech. It's me. Oh, that'll be a good spiel, he said. So he begins putting together his costume. And he gets the frock. And he gets a beard that looks very real. And he gets the long payas that look very real, and he gets a hat, and he gets the stockings and the black shoes and everything. He looks down to a teen. He says, look, I'm going to come to shul as a tzaddik. He said, I have to have a Megillah. He goes and he gets a Megillah, klaf, made out of parchment. And he comes the first night. He gets himself all dressed up in his apartment, and he looks at himself in the mirror, and he himself cannot believe how authentic and real he looks. He looks in the mirror and he says, you look like Reb Chaim. From the rest of Purim, my name is Reb Chaim. He walks into shul that first night for the Megillah reading, and he walks with a cane, and he's walking slowly like an old tzaddik from Yerushalayim, and he stands by one of the rows, and suddenly there's a father and a son, and the father says to his son, move, a tzaddik is here, move, a tzaddik is here. And the boy gets up, and Reb Chaim sits down, thanks the boy, puts his hand on his head, gives him a bracha, and the Megillah is read. The end of the reading of the Megillah, Reb Chaim gets up, and the fathers are bringing the children over, get a bracha from the tzaddik, get a bracha from the tzaddik. And this kid is feeling so good about himself. He fooled even the greatest people of Yerushalayim. And he goes back to his apartment that night, and he takes off the costume piece by piece, and he says, I'll see you tomorrow. Next morning he gets up, puts on the costume, looks in the mirror, Shalom Aleichem Reb Chaim, and he says, let me stop on the way by the makolet, by the marketplace, let me get some candy. It looks like the little kinderlach, the kids are coming over to me. Let me at least pass out some candy to them today. And he comes to shul, and it's a repeat performance. Fathers are moving their kids away so he can sit down. They're coming for brachas. He's giving them candy. He's telling them the Torah should be zis, should always be sweet like this candy. You should always be such a zis kind of sweet kid like this candy. And after the Megillah is over, he begins to plan out the rest of his day. And he says, let me just first try with my uncle. If I can pull the wool over my uncle's eyes and he'll think that I'm some older tzaddik over here in Yerushalayim, then I'll know I'll be able to go to my parents as well. So the day is going on, festivities are taking place, and somewhere in the middle of the day he comes to his uncle's house. And he knocks on the door when one of the kids comes to the door and says, ooh, Tati, there's a tzaddik here. And he says, no, bring him in. And the uncle has already been drinking a little bit. The meal has already begun. And Reb Chaim comes in, and he says, Shalom Aleichem. And he says, my name is Reb Chaim. I have a special organization that I run here in Yerushalayim. I'm working with children that are off the derech. They're no longer keeping mitzvahs the way that they used to. And I'm raising money today for this organization. I was hoping, Reb Yid, you'd be able to help me out. And the uncle pulls him very close. And he says, Reb Chaim, I'm happy to give you a donation. He says, but please promise me one thing. I have a nephew. My nephew's name is Moshe. And Moshe drifted off the path of Yiddishkeit already for the last couple of years. You know what it's done to his parents. You know what it's done to his family. You know how much people are mourning over the loss of this special boy. If only he would know how much we all love him and we care about him, maybe we would begin to come back to Yiddishkeit. Reb Chaim, please do me a favor. Here's his name. Here's where he lives. When Purim is over, please go knock on his door. Go talk to him. Be mekar of him. Bring him in. Please let him know that we care about him. And by this time, the tzaddik Reb Chaim is holding back the tears because he never realized how much they loved and they cared about him. And he said, yeah, of course. So write it out, and he writes out the name and the address. And as Reb Chaim walks out the door that night, he says to himself, Reb Chaim, You're not Reb Chaim. You're Moshe. Why don't you go to your parents for the Purim Suda and see them and rejoice with them and be happy with them? And so this young man who was supposed to play the greatest charade of the world, the mask was pulled off of him, and he ended up coming back to Yiddishkeit as a result of it. Says the Torah that if only a person will do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants in this world, if only a person will do their best efforts to keep the mitzvahs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if they will be the Mevakshe Hashem, those that are seeking and searching HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then there is no reason why that person should not be besimcha, they should not be rejoicing all the time. Because the bracha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave is Tishra Shechina b'maisa yedecha. The Shechina will dwell in your actions and your deeds. Because you have made the Shechina rejoice, so he will pay you back in kind, and that is to bring the Shechina down to you. Mishenichnas Adar, marbin b'simcha, as we're saying. If you want to increase your happiness in this month, which I'm sure that we all do, it's a little bit of a contradiction in the world today. You've got a war that's going on in Ukraine. You have hundreds of thousands of Jews whose lives are in jeopardy and in danger right now, running for their lives, trying to find some kind of sanctum and safety. And yet it's the month of Adar, it's the Chodesh that we're supposed to rejoice. How do we do that? Says the Torah, it's one way. If you will increase your avodah, you will increase your work, you will increase your mitzvahs, you're allowed to be happy for that. If you will increase your kavana, your intention during davening, as you daven for the Jews in Ukraine, you're allowed to be happy with the fact that you elevated yourself in your tefillah. If you will learn 5 minutes extra a day so that maybe a Yid in Ukraine who's running for his life will be able to get over the border and God forbid not get shot, as they're worried about right now, you could rejoice over the fact that you have increased yourself and reached a new level in your mitzvah observance. And if you will keep Shabbos like you never kept the Shabbos before, with the dikdukim, with the fine points of halacha, you could be happy to know that you're a Torah Jew that is growing. Because when you do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's Tachlis Habriya, that is the reason I created the world. If we are from the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's because it's for you that I created my world, so then not that we should become haughty, and not that we should become conceited, but that we should have comfort and solace knowing that we're doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us into this world to do. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, if you do Kain Asa, you do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, then of course, Yiratzain, may it be your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shetishva Shechina b'maisa yedechem, that the Shechina, as Rabbi Vitzek said to me, may the Shechina always be comfortable in your home, may be comfortable in your car, may be comfortable in your office, may be comfortable with your family. When he sees that you are trying to live a life where the Mevakshe Hashem, you desire to get closer and closer to Hashem, the only way to get closer is to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do, that is to be stalwart in our mitzvah observance, and in that zechus im Yetz Hashem, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the nisim, the miracles in the days of Purim, by Yemim Ha'im Bazman Hazeh, in those times, he did it then, he should do it again for us and for Klal Yisrael. Nahafachu, he can turn everything around just like that. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu protect Klal Yisrael in Ukraine and protect the Jews all across the world. May we be zeicha to do the ratz and the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in that zechus, may Hashem rest His Shechina upon us in the most magnificent of ways, with the Bias Koyat Tzedek, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mheira v'yameinu. Shukayach to everyone for coming. Good to see you.
Thank you, Horowitz.
Okay, Coach, there's a seat waiting for you over here.
Thank you. I can't wait to get there.
Okay, we can't wait to have you.